Krishna Krishna Pahi Mam. Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rakshama. Krishna Kesava Krishna Kesava Krishna Kesava Pahi Mam. Krishna 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 He. Krishna 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 He. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Bhagavan Shri Krishna ki jai. Krishna book reading, milk drinking, what's up ki jai. So we are reading from Krishna book, chapter 7, the salvation of Trinabharata. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is always full with 6 opulences, namely complete wealth, complete strength, complete fame, complete knowledge, complete beauty, and complete renunciation. The Lord has appeared in different, complete, eternal forms of incarnations. The conditioned souls have immense opportunity to hear about the transcendental activities of the Lord in these different incarnations. In the Bhagavad Gita it is said, Janama Kama Chami Tibbam. The pastimes and activities of the Lord are not material, they are beyond the material conception. And the conditioned soul can benefit by hearing such uncommon activities. Hearing is an opportunity to associate with the Lord. To hear His activities is to evolve to the transcendental nature. Simply by hearing, the conditioned soul has a natural aptitude to hear something about other conditioned souls in the form of fiction, drama, and novel. That inclination to hear something about others should be utilized in hearing the pastimes of the Lord. Then one can immediately evolve to the transcendental nature. Krishna's pastimes are not only beautiful, but they're also very pleasing to the mind. And Sri Prabhupada said sometimes, even the people are coming here, when he was giving a lecture, they are coming here, and some of them, they can't understand English lecture, but it's okay because just in the sound vibration, they benefit just by hearing the sound vibration, even if they don't understand the English language we're speaking, still they are benefited by the sound vibration. So this is the importance of hearing. Devotional service begins with hearing, Shravanam Kirtanam. Hearing with the ears. If someone takes advantage of hearing the pastimes of the Lord, the material contamination of dust accumulated in the heart due to long association with material nature can immediately be cleansed. Lord Chaitanya also instructed that simply by hearing the transcendental name of Lord Krishna, one can cleanse the heart of all material contamination. This is the beginning of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching. Cheto Darapana Marjanam. It begins at that point. By hearing the holy names of the Lord, one becomes cleansed, the heart becomes cleansed. And then he can repeat what is heard. So this is the process. We're hearing, and then we repeat that. So first is Shravanam, hearing, then repeating the Kirtanam, Shravanam Kirtanam. So Shravanam is important. It's first because we're hearing the sound vibration, and that is purifying. Then we can chant and do all the other forms of devotional service. Lord Chaitanya also instructed that simply by hearing the transcendental name of Lord Krishna, one can cleanse the heart of all material contamination. There are different processes of self-realization, but this process of devotional service, of which hearing is the most important function. When adopted by any conditioned soul, it will automatically cleanse him of the material contamination and enable him to realize his real constitutional position. In other words, the soul is pure, but it is simply covered. And by chanting and removing this covering, immediately one's constitutional nature is revealed. Already it's there, but it's covered. But by hearing, especially, then that covering becomes cleansed, and one is situated in his own constitutional position for self-realization. Conditional life is due to this contamination only. As soon as it is cleared off, then naturally the dormant function of the living entity, rendering service to the Lord, awakens. By developing his eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord, one becomes eligible to create friendship with the devotees. Maharaj Parikshit recommended from practical experience that everyone try to hear the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. This Krishna treatise is meant for that purpose, and the reader may take advantage of it to attain the ultimate goal of human life. The Lord, out of his causeless mercy, descends to this material world and displays his activities just like an ordinary man. Unfortunately, the impersonalists or the atheistic class of men consider Krishna to be an ordinary man like them, like themselves, and so they deride him. This is condemned in the Bhagavad Gita by the Lord himself when he says, Abhajananti mam mudha, the mudhas, or rascals, take Krishna to be an ordinary man, or a slightly more powerful man out of their great misfortune. They cannot accept him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes such unfortunate persons misrepresent themselves as incarnations of Krishna without referring to the authorized scriptures. Sometimes such unfortunate persons misrepresent themselves as incarnations of Krishna without reference to the authorized scriptures. So the authorized scriptures give us a definition of what is God, what are the qualifications of God, and Prabhupada just mentioned that he must be full in all these six opulences: beauty, strength, fame, knowledge, wealth, renunciation. A person who has all these six qualities in full, he can be called God or Bhagavan. And Krishna, when he was here, he displayed all of these different six opulences more than anybody else in history of human society. So he not only says he is God, but he proves he's God. And we have these pastimes to remember and chant about. When Krishna grew up a little more, he began to turn himself backside up. He did not merely lie down on his back. Another function was observed by Jasoda and Nanda Maharaj was Krishna's first birthday. They arranged for Krishna's birthday ceremony, which is still observed by the followers of the Vedic principles. Krishna's birthday ceremony is observed in India by all Hindus, irrespective of different sectarian views. All the cowherd men and women were invited to participate in the jubilant celebration. A nice band played and the assembled people enjoyed it. All the learned brahmanas were invited and they chanted Vedic hymns for the good fortune of Krishna. During the chanting of the Vedic hymns and playing of bands, Krishna was bathed by Mother Jasoda. This bathing ceremony is technically called Abhishek, and even today it is observed in all of the temples of Vrindavan on Janmashtami day, or the birthday anniversary of Lord Krishna. On this occasion, Mother Jasoda arranged to distribute a large quantity of grains and first-class cows, decorated with golden ornaments. They were made ready to be given in charity to the learned, respectable brahmanas. Jasoda took her bath and dressed herself nicely. And taking child Krishna, duly dressed and bathed, on her lap, she sat down to hear the Vedic hymns chanted by the brahmanas. While Mother Jasoda was listening to the chanting of the Vedic hymns, the child appeared to be falling asleep, and therefore she very silently laid him down on the bed. Being engaged in receiving all the friends, relatives, and residents of Vrindavan on that holy occasion, she forgot to feed the child milk. He was crying, being hungry. But Mother Jasoda could not hear him crying because of the various noises. The child, however, became angry because he was hungry and his mother was not paying attention to him. So he lifted up his legs and began to kick his lotus feet just like an ordinary child. Baby Krishna had been placed underneath a hand-driven cart, and while he was kicking his legs, he accidentally touched the wheel of the cart and it collapsed. Various kinds of utensils and dishes made of brass and other metals had been piled up on the handcart, and they all fell down with a great noise. The wheel of the cart separated from the axle, and the spokes of the wheel were all broken and scattered hither and thither. Mother Jasoda and all the gopis, as well as Maharaj Nanda and the cowherd men, were astonished as to how the cart could have collapsed by itself. All the men and women who were assembled there for the holy function crowded around and began to suggest how the cart may have collapsed. No one could ascertain the cause, but some of the small children who had been entrusted to play with baby Krishna informed the crowd that it was due to Krishna's kicking his feet against the wheel. They assured the crowd that they had seen how it had happened with their own eyes, and they strongly asserted the point. Some were listening to the statements of the small children, but others said, "How can you believe in the statements of these children?" The cowherd men and women could not understand that the all-powerful personality of Godhead was lying there as a baby, and that he could do anything. Both the possible and impossible were in his power. While the discussion was going on, baby Krishna cried. Without remonstration, Mother Jasoda picked up the child on her lap and called the learned Brahmanas to chant the holy Vedic hymns to counteract the evil spirits. At the same time, she allowed baby Krishna to suck her breast. If a child sucks the mother's breast nicely, it is to be understood that he is out of all danger. After this, all the stronger cowherd men put the broken cart in order, and all the scattered things were set up nicely as before. The Brahmanas therefore began to offer oblations to the sacrificial fire with yogurt, butter, kusha grass, and water. They worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the good fortune of the child. The Brahmanas who were present at that time were all qualified because they were not envious. They never indulged in untruthfulness. They were never proud, and they were non-violent. And they never claimed any false prestige. They were all bona fide Brahmanas, and there was no reason to think that their blessings would be useless. With firm faith in the qualified Brahmanas, Nanda Maharaj took the child on his lap and bathed him with water mixed with various herbs, while the Brahmanas chanted hymns from the Rig, Yajur, and Shama Vedas. It is said that without being a qualified Brahmana, one should not read the mantras of the Vedas. Here is the proof that the Brahmanas were qualified with all Brahminical symptoms. Maharaj Nanda also had full faith in them, and therefore they were allowed to perform the ritualistic ceremonies by chanting the Vedic mantras. There are many different varieties of sacrifices recommended for different purposes, but the mantras are all to be chanted by qualified Brahmanas. And because in this age such qualified Brahmanas are not available, all the Vedic ritualistic sacrifices are forbidden. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore recommended only one kind of sacrifice in this age, namely the Sankirtan Jagana, or the chanting of the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hari Hari, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hari Hari. Srila Prabhupada told me one time, you can chant your mantras in your own language, in English language. Generally, you speak to the deity through Devanagari, Sanskrit language. That's the Vedic injunction. But Prabhupada said you can chant these prayers in your own language. Also in the Bhavasha Purana, it is said that in the Kali Yuga, one saffron-clad man will come and he will teach the Vedas in the language of the Malechas and initiate with fire. Sounds like Srila Prabhupada. As the Brahmanas chanted the Vedic hymns and as the Brahmanas chanted the Vedic hymns and performed the ritualistic ceremony for the second time, Maharaj Nanda again gave them huge quantities of grains and many cows. All the cows were given in charity. They were covered with nice gold embroidered garments, and their horns were bedecked with golden rings. Their hooves were covered with silver plate, and they wore garlands of flowers. He gave so many cows just for the welfare of the wonderful child. And the Brahmanas in return bestowed their heartfelt blessings. And the blessings offered by the Brahmanas were never to be baffled. So this chapter is called the Salvation of Trinavarata, but we never heard the name, we never heard the name of the Shakatashura. Shakata is a cart, and Ashura means low class. But the name you don't see in he's not addressed in it, because actually this Shakatashura, he's a ghost. He's a ghostly being. So ghosts that don't have any bodies. So how you can give them a name? But anyway, the Trinavrata, he is mentioned, but Shakatashura is not mentioned in the shlokas. One day, shortly after the ceremony, when Mother Jasoda was putting her baby on her lap, the baby felt too heavy, and being unable to carry him, she unwillingly placed him on the ground. After a while, she became engaged in household affairs. At that time, the servants of Kamsa, known as Trinavarta, as instructed by Kamsa, appeared there in the shape of a whirlwind. He picked up the child on his shoulders and raised a great dust storm all over Vrindavan, covering everyone's eyes. Within a few moments, the whole area of Vrindavan became so densely dark that no one could see himself or anyone else. During this great catastrophe, Mother Jasoda could not see her baby, who had been taken away by the whirlwind, and she began to cry very piteously. She fell down on the ground exactly like a cow who has just lost her calf. When Mother Jasoda was so piteously crying, all the cowherd women immediately came and began to look for the baby, but they were disappointed and they could not find him. The Trinavrata demon went high in the sky with baby Krishna on his shoulder. But the baby assumed such a weight that suddenly he could not go on any further, and he had to stop his whirlwind activities. Baby Krishna made himself heavy, and he began to weigh down the demon. Catching hold of his neck, Trinavarta felt the baby to be as heavy as a big mountain, and he tried to get out of his clutches, but he was unable to do so. And his eyes popped out from their sockets. Crying very fiercely, he fell down on the ground of Vrindavan and died. The demon fell exactly like Tripashura, who was pierced by the arrow of Lord Shiva. Trinavrata hit a stone slab, and his limbs were smashed, and his body became visible to all the inhabitants of Vrindavan. When the gopis saw the demon killed, and the child Krishna very happily playing on his body, they immediately picked up Krishna with great affection. The cowherd men and women became very happy to get back their beloved child Krishna. At that time they began to talk how wonderful it is that the demon had taken the child away to devour him. But he could not do so. Instead, he fell down dead. Some of them supported the situation. This is proper because those who are too sinful die from their sinful reactions. And child Krishna is pious, therefore he is safe from all kinds of fearful situations. And we too must have performed great sacrifices in our previous lives, worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, giving great wealth in charity, and acting philanthropically for the general welfare of men. Because of such pious activities, the child is safe from all danger. The gopis assembled there. They spoke among themselves. What sort of austerities and penance we must have undergone in our previous lives. We must have worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, offered different kinds of sacrifices, made charities, and performed many welfare activities for the public, such as growing banyan trees and excavating wells. As a result of these pious activities, we have gotten back our child, even though he was supposed to be dead. Now he has come back to enliven his relatives. After observing such wonderful happenings, Nanda Maharaj began to think of the words of Vasudeva again and again. After this incident, when Mother Jasoda was nursing her child, so Krishna and the gopis were playing. They were throwing the baby up in the air and catching him like you see ordinary people do. They throw the baby up and catch him. So Krishna was receiving all this. He was liking it, but he said, this is very mild. This is only for kids stuff. I want to go higher. So therefore he induced Trinavrata to take him very, very, very high up. So Krishna was enjoying this. He wanted to increase the height of the gopis, throwing him up and down. So he went way, way up in the sky with Trinavrata. After this incident, when Jasoda was once nursing her child and patting him with great affection, there streams a profuse supply of milk from her breast. And when she opened the mouth of Krishna with her fingers, she suddenly saw the universal manifestation within his mouth. She saw within the mouth of Krishna the whole sky, including the luminaries, stars in all directions, the sun, the moon, fire, air, seas, lands, islands, mountains, rivers, forests, and all other movable and immovable entities. When Mother Jasoda saw this, her heart began to throb, and she murmured to herself, "How wonderful is this?" She could not express anything, but simply closed her eyes. She was absorbed in thoughts, wonderful thoughts of Krishna showing the universal form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even when lying down on the lap of his mother. It proves that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whether he is manifested as a child on the lap of his mother or as a charioteer on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the connection, the concoction of the impersonalists that one can become God by meditation or some artificial material activity is here declared false. God is always God in any condition or status, and the living entities are always parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. They can never be equal to the inconceivable, supernatural power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 7th chapter of Krishna, the salvation of Trinavrata. Bhagavan Shri Krishna ki jai. So God is always God, even as a baby. Even as a baby, he proved he was God. He killed Putana Rakshashi. Krishna was only 1 or 2 months old at that time. His eyes were just coming open. He was very, very young, but he could kill that big Rakshashi, Putana. And here, just small boy, we can see how he has killed Trinavrata. So Krishna didn't have to perform any yoga exercises or meditation to become God. He's always God. There's no history that Krishna used to do some kind of yoga to get mystic power. God is always God. From the beginning of his birth to the end of his pastimes, marrying 16,000 queens, 16,000 palaces, 16,000 Krishnas. He expanded himself into 16,000. So nobody in the history of the world has performed such activities, showing the universal form. So Krishna came to display this part. Now we have something to hear about. Now we have something to chant. So this is all the mercy of Krishna. Any question?
No questions. There's just, you've got a nice crowd attending. Nobody's asking any questions. You're very quiet. Larry's been chatting to me, but he hasn't asked a question. Let me just check for any questions. No?
Should I continue for a little?
Yeah, people are enjoying it. We've got there's about 115, 120 people. Nice.
How much time?
We've got 120 people. 120 people are listening in. We were asking them, does anyone wants to ask a question? We've got 10 minutes left. To tell them that.
Should I just read?
Yeah, just read it. It's fine.
Okay, this is chapter 8 of Krishna book, the vision of the universal form. After this incident, Vasudeva asked his family priest, Gagamuni, to visit the palace or the place of Nanda Maharaj in order to astrologically calculate the future life of Krishna. Gagamuni was a great saintly sage and had undergone many austerities and penances. He had been appointed the priest of the Jadu dynasty. When Gagamuni arrived at the home of Nanda Maharaj was very pleased to see him and immediately stood up with folded hands and offered him respectful obeisances. He received Gagamuni with the feeling of one who is worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He offered him a nice sitting place. And when he sat down, Nanda Maharaj offered him a warm reception. Addressing him very politely, he said, "My dear Brahmana, your appearance in a householder's place is only to enlighten. We are always engaged in household duties and are forgetting our real duty of self-realization. Your coming to our house is to give us some enlightenment about spiritual life. You have no other purpose in visiting householders." Actually, a saintly person or a Brahmana has no business visiting householders who are always busy in the matter of dollars and cents. The only reason saintly persons go to Brahmanas The only reason saintly persons and Brahmanas go to places of a householder is to enlighten him. If it is asked, why don't the householders go to the saintly person or a Brahmana for enlightenment? The answer is that the householders are very poor-hearted. Generally, householders think that engagement in family affairs is their prime duty, and that self-realization or enlightenment in spiritual knowledge is secondary. Out of compassion only, saintly persons and Brahmanas go to the householders' homes. Nanda Maharaj addressed Gagamuni as one of the great authorities on astrological science. The foretelling of the astrological science, such as the occurrence of a solar or lunar eclipse, are wonderful calculations. And by this particular science, a person can understand the future very clearly. Gagamuni was proficient in this knowledge. By this knowledge, one can understand what his previous activities were and that are causing him to enjoy or suffer in this life. Nanda Maharaj also addressed Gagamuni as the best of the Brahmanas. A Brahmana is one who is expert in the knowledge of the Supreme. Without knowledge of the Supreme Absolute, one cannot recognize a Brahmana. Without knowledge of the Supreme Truth, one cannot be recognized as a Brahmana. The exact words used here in this connection is Brahma Badam, which means those who know the Supreme very well. An expert Brahmana is able to give reformatory facilities to the sub-castes, namely the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas. The Sudras observe no refractory performances. The Brahmana is considered to be the spiritual master or priest of the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas. Nanda Maharaj happened to be a Vaishya, and he accepted Gargamuni as a first-class Brahmana. He therefore offered his two foster sons, namely Krishna and Balaram, to him to purify. Nanda stated that not only these boys, but all human beings, just after birth, should accept a qualified Brahmana as a spiritual master. Upon this request, Gargamuni replied, Vasudev has sent me here to see to the reformatory performances of these boys, specifically Krishna. But if I do it, it may incidentally appear that Krishna is the son of Devaki, since I am Vasudeva's family priest. By his astrological calculation, Gargamuni could understand that Krishna was the son of Devaki, which Nanda did not know. Indirectly, Gargamuni said that Krishna and Balaram were both the sons of Vasudeva. Balaram is known as the son of Vasudeva because his mother, Rohini, was present there then. But Nanda Maharaj did not know about Krishna. Gargamuni indirectly closed this fact that Krishna was the son of Devaki. Gargamuni also warned Nanda Maharaj that he should perform reformatory ceremonies, and when then Kamsa, Gargamuni also warned Nanda Maharaj that if he would perform the reformatory ceremonies, then Kamsa, who was naturally very sinful, would understand that Krishna was the son of Devaki and Vasudeva. According to astrological calculation, Devaki could not have a female child, although everyone thought that the eighth child Devaki was a female. In this way, Gargamuni intimated that to Nanda Maharaj that the female child was born of Jashoda and that Krishna was born of Devaki, and they were exchanged. The female child, or Durga, also informed Kamsa that the child who will kill him was already born somewhere else. Gargamuni stated, if I give your child a name and he fulfills the prophecy of the female child to Kamsa, then it may be that the sinful demon will come and kill the child, also after the name-giving ceremony. So I don't want to become responsibility for all these future calamities. On hearing the words of Gargamuni, Narad Muni said, if there is such danger, then better not to plan any gorgeous name-giving ceremony. It would be better for you to simply chant Vedic hymns and perform the preparatory process. We belong to the twice-born caste, and I am taking this opportunity of your presence. So please perform the name-giving ceremony without any external pomp. Nanda Maharaj wanted to keep the name-giving ceremony a secret and yet take advantage of Gargamuni's performing the ceremony. Okay? Krishna Book Ki Jai. Prabhupada Ki Jai. What? Okay, thank you so much for coming and hearing. Please come tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Hari Bol. Somebody come.